Hello traders, this is Alex with the StockMatrix program. The options keep trending, uh, but we did shift a little bit now. It was kind of neutral, right? There was just as many calls or long as there was shorts or puts. So we have now flipped it. So there's a few more puts. The short term flipped a week ago. So again, it's consistent. But anyway, the trends continue. We had three trades, actually two new trades. The ED here, the Edison Electric Company, that was a roll. So we rolled from the 90 call to an in the money call. You know, we had, again, I just follow specific rules. Now, I was going to do it Friday, but since I was doing this and had a couple trades, I went ahead and rolled it. So we are out of the old one, and we've got now a May. They don't have a June, so I used May. Anyway, so we have a couple trades. You can look at this. Again, slightly profitable. Um, Nothing too on fire. You can see our losses that we current trades have on. Of course, this is the one we just put on. This is the one we just put on. Apple's only a negative one. It's kind of a tough chart. The correction is, I mean, we got calls on, but man, it's just a choppy thing. All right, let's move on to the main page here. You can see we have a bunch of annuals. So as an index, right, these 17 select stocks as an index, I guess you call it the StockMatrix index. We've got quite a bit of activity, so be careful. Again, that includes the weekend, right, and Monday. So we got Friday, yesterday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So there's quite a few in here. So expect some fireworks, maybe some reversals, gaps, right? Be careful of gaps either today, which I maybe, but more likely to be Monday. Gaps are kind of interesting. Now Google is the only one that has a across the board thing. We got the 9th, the 10th. You know, from last year's lows, which is kind of key. You know, it's not too out in the future. And then we got 2006 lows, and then we also have 855 is a 45 degree or number. So anyway, we do have a few of those, but the Google has the whole match, and 30 degrees is kind of important GAN wise too. So WD GAN like 30 degrees, 45, 120, 180, 360, the whole smash. Let's now move to the trades. Again, these are the two trades we reversed on. We had calls, and now we have puts. We have short 7. We have 12 short-term versus the 5 up. So the short term's definitely been flipping a while ago, and now we have 10 down and 7 up. So again, we flipped that from the neutral. I think we're at, well, let's just look here. I believe we had a 1. Yeah. So again, I don't push this button to save all this data every time. Sometimes twice a day, sometimes whenever I get on here. But you can see I did save it yesterday, and it was -5 to 1, and now we're at -7 to -3. So now again, the last time we were at 426 on this index of these select stocks was in November 5th. So you can see that's pretty important, right? As a trend trader goes, you got to use a little caution here and use these options to your advantage on the thing. All right, let's go to the charts. This is the ED. This is the one that we just rolled because we ran out of time on the options. Again, I have a set rule, simple thing. 2 weeks prior to, which would be Friday, the option expiration, we roll. Try to stay in the money best you can, at the same strike best you can. Sometimes you get too deep in the money. We had 90 calls on, right? So that was down here when we did this. You know, I always go 1 strike in the money if possible, or 2 if necessary. But you can see these are the 90 calls. So now we have 92.50 calls on, which is kind of close to this area. And you can see we kind of had a good bump up with a crappy close and went back to the old solar eclipse on the ED. Kind of a secondary possible top. Now again, possible, right? You don't know. So let's go now to the BK. Let's go to BK. This is the Bank of Magellan, New York Bank, an old company, been around a long time. And you can see this thing had a big outside period down. Now, again, if you follow me on some of these other videos, you know I'm not a big fan of outside events. I don't care if it's an hourly. I don't care if it's a daily, weekly, or on my StockMatrix chart. I just don't, that's more neutral to me, right? Because it made a new high, made a new low. Now, it did close lower. So now if it closed mid-range, I would have been really neutral. But the system had her stop here. Again, we used 3, a system of 3. And it happened to be on the day that we're rolling it, so we got sold on the low. Now, this trend line comes off of this lunar eclipse previous close, which was a low, by the way. And now we're into this lunar eclipse, which is now a possible high. Now, the 1-to-1 would project a close on the lunar which is March 14th up here at 6 in the morning. So maybe the day before. Anyway, you're looking at 82.53. You know, in this range, right? Either one of these. So now it actually does work fairly decent. Now I like the solar eclipses for time measurements more than the lunar. Lunars tend, on a lot of these stocks, tend to be more of activity, right? Where it's a low or a high, even gaps, right? But anyway, we're coming into the next lunar. So obviously that's a half a year basically, right? So we've been up for a half a year since the low. Maybe it'll continue to trend. I don't know. Now I got to guess. I got a feeling that we're maybe in for more of a turbulent time, and maybe we've seen the highs for the year on a lot of these stocks. Now that's my gut, which I lose money trading my gut. That's why the matrix makes money, right? Because it don't care about your gut. Cintas, similar look, kind of more of a secondary event. So again, an outside period down, ran the stops, had a little stronger close. But again, this old solar eclipse, it went up to that, and down we went, 90 degrees over from the high, which, on my previous ones, I thought back in the year when we got in, this was kind of the target area, actually right on the 90 degrees. So kind of called the wall, time and price. The next 90 from the low is down in here, but again, you can see we had 3 of that. So really it comes into this time period, which again covers the lunar solar eclipse event. So we definitely could see a smash into the solar lunar. Makes sense to me. Now again, we can see here that it was mid-range of this event. We did the stock split on Cintas, and bam, down we went, broke the trend, gap down, an ugly thing. The system in the trial period got short the, here's our 3, so we had our stop here. Actually, we moved it, so it was this 3, right? So anyway, we had the stop here, so it got filled prior to the hammer dog, and of course that was all. Of course, the system started here on the 6th. On that close, so we sold it again because we're going with the trend, and that's how a lot of these other stocks were too, right? So just how it went. Anyway, and then we spun out and bought it here. So we took a loss on the first trade as the system began. So anyway, got close to the 1-to-1. I'm more neutral this action, but you never know, right? It could definitely go down, especially with this eclipse stuff going on. Maybe we'll go down, and I would guess if we're going to go down, we'll take these lows out by a smidge and have a little trap action, because we had a bull trap high, and well, actually this is maybe probably a bull trap too, right? So I'm guessing that tells me that we're gonna have a bear trap at some point. For every action there's an opposite but equal reaction. Let's move on to the daily chart. Let's move on to the daily charts here, and you can see that well, that's NVIDIA. Hang with me. Okay, I got it pulled up. We got the BK here, the Bank of Magellan. You can see this action. We definitely had a bull trap. Now, the last video I just did prior to this one talked about the traps. If you want to review that and how I do options on those, right? I would kind of wait for these activity with timing, which we had. So you can see that this market is, long in the tooth, right? We've really been going up for a year, 2 years. Depending on how you look at it, but at least from here, right? So, there's about a year and a half without a really major break. So you got to be careful of these, right? I'm guessing this correction, if we have some big magnitude break, just a rough here. I'm just throwing it in there so you can kind of see where the recent. Now again, this ain't a percentage break. This will be a points break, exact match. Put you down here around 78-ish, on around June-ish. So again, pretty important. Now let's run again, this is the solar eclipse, this green line here, and this is the cycle from here to here. This point extends out one period or one cycle of that, which did project this little bump high. Let's run it out into the future. There's March 11th, which is coming up Tuesday, I think. So that's our next major period. So that kind of fits in. We do have this timing that we had in annulars, right? These are all annulars. The red are lows, the blues are highs. You can see I put it on both sides because I don't know yet until the action if this is a low or a high. If it's a low, it's pretty significant. If it's a high, it's pretty significant too, right? Because we do have fuel for fire to bust it. And again, this is all part of the chart work that I do. But the uptrend line's coming up, which I'll draw here. So here's just a common trend line. Which projects it down in here. So it makes sense that if it really smashes fast, that we could get to that pretty quickly. A price ahead of time, which happens a lot. Let me just see if it's mathematical. It is mathematical. Here's a 1-to-1 trend line. So it's down a little further, but again, makes sense. So anyway, we got some stuff there. Let's go to Cintas. Oops, dang it, hang on. Here's Cintas on the daily chart, and you can see this is the solar eclipse. March 17th is the next zone. Again, this was about a 20.7% break. Again, if you watch my other videos, you know that my instincts are telling me that this is going to be a slow grind to the higher side. So the outside event, which we had on the StockMatrix chart, maybe is just a buy opportunity. I don't know. Again, that's my instinct of 4 decades of trading. Now that doesn't mean that this isn't a secondary high. 62% back, filled the gap, uncovered close, and down we go for a new leg. This action was bearish. This is when we did the stock split and immediately dropped 20%. So that was a bait and switch by the professionals. They pushed it their way to get the stock split, to get people in there to buy it. Because stock splits never go down. Yeah, whatever. So anyway, we're kind of just trading on that notion. Here was a zone back in here, which was an annular, which was a low, and we took that out, which gave it fuel, right, for this move. So that's why it's kind of important of these annulars. I try to keep them on the direction of the trend because this is important, right? It isn't just a fluke that they busted that. They busted it because something's changed. And if the trend continues down, the system's going to hit a rope, right? Because we got all puts on. Again, I don't know where stuff's going, but again, if we have some big corrective bear market, which we haven't had for a while since the COVID deal, which was a false break, it's man-made, I guess I call it. It wasn't real. Based on the action of the stock and profitability of these stocks. And as I flip back to the bar chart, the service, again, you can look them up. I like it. You can get one free portfolio, and then if you have several, you have to pay. It's a low fee, but it's a good service. Gives you, again, this is where I save everything. So, and yeah, I can unload it. After the first quarter, I'll unload everything into the Excel, which you can do. Anyway, you can see here that, we're writing these trends. Looks like I guess the dates don't show up here, but we've been basically long these markets now or short for quite a while. January 27th, January 21st, January 31st, January 2nd. Now again, we got long or short, which we took January 6th was the beginning date. Now these were prior to, right, the trial period. That's only one left from the trial that hasn't got knocked out. We were short then, had to sell it down in the hole a little bit, but the trend did continue down. Right now there's $11,000 profit on that, and of course the options on that we're at about, Tesla's about at $9,200 profit. So we've got $14,000 tied up in that stock, right? With what we paid for it, right? So again, it wasn't cheap. It's a high volatility stock, and it's not at a cheap price. So I've noticed the higher value, they tend to trade a little more like normal. Some of the lower stocks, $50 and under, it's a little more trickier to trade these options correctly. One, again, the reason why I stayed with these 17 select stocks, they're old companies except for Coinbase, but most of them are all old companies. Plus, they're on the top lists of the BlackRocks and the big trading community and the hedge funds, right? Everybody has these. So I need volatility. You need a lot of bids and offers in these options. You get out there in some of these, out in the future, it's not very active. Currently, it's about 7:44. We're about at 45 minutes before the opening. So again, coming into the eclipses, use a little caution here. If you're got other positions on, you might want to use some of these options. Look them up, see what they're worth. A little protection for at least, you can go out about a month is all. And that should cover you the extreme volatility period. All right, I've rambled on. Quick update. Thanks again. Have a great rest of your trading day and next week.